So, in case you don't remember meeting him before, you've met him a couple of times, I think, on the program. Jaco Booyens, he is the founder of Jaco Booyens Ministries and CEO After Eden Pictures. He is he's a guy who I first met, I don't know, a few years ago, and he was involved in stopping human trafficking because his sister in South Africa was kidnapped by human traffickers. And if I remember right, Jaco, didn't you quit school to go find your sister?
Yeah, it became a family effort. Good morning, Glenn. Thank you. Family effort. I was a senior in high school at the time, and Ilanka was 13. Yes.
Jeez. And you eventually found her. How long did it take?
It was a long journey. The process of Ilanka being trafficked was from 1994 through 2001. So it's a 6-year journey, and she was discovered early one morning in a casino by an undercover police officer who broke through a door by God's divine appointment. And so it was a long journey. And since then, since 1994, we've been in this hellacious fight against evil that's coming for our children.
And it is, I tell you, Jaco, it is what's happening in our schools right now is so evil, and we are crossing there are no lines beyond minor attracted adults. There's no line past that.
That's right.
You blow past the child sex line, you're at the bottom of society. That's it. There's nothing left.
Absolutely.
I wanted to talk to you about something because all my neighbors are freaking out, and they're like, Glenn, why didn't you talk about this? And I'm like, the guy works for us. I mean, he's a contributor on The Blaze. I mean, that's close enough, isn't it? But you've stirred things up in my household and everything else. I wanted you to explain what TEKS is and how this is happening here in Texas, but it is also most likely happening all over the country in their own version of it.
Yeah, absolutely. The TEKS program, which is a code, is an education code. That's the guidelines for Texas education, of course, and by the State School Board of Education and the TEA, the Texas Education Association. TEKS stands for Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills Standards. And every year they review one of these pillars. There's 4 pillars. And this year it's social studies. Next year it will be mathematics. Now, the interesting thing is when they review it, it only happens every 12 years.
Oh, my gosh.
So when they set a standard, Glenn, and one of your great friends, an amazing American, helped set the previous standards.
David Barton. Yeah.
In 2009 with a lot of scholars, and it was phenomenal. It was pro-American, pro-God, pro-country, pro-Texas.
Right. Pro-Texas history, where the Alamo was a place of honor, not dishonor.
Well, yes, and look, this morning, breaking on your show right now, 5 minutes ago, your staff is so on point, Glenn. I sent them a letter that was released 5 minutes ago substantiating what I've been saying. And look, we've taken attack from the state school board this week because they've never been under a microscope like this. But the parents need to know what these proposed standards are, and they're radical from the left, against our nation's history, Texas history, against Christianity, minimizing Christianity, teaching 20 days of Buddhism, divination, Hinduism, a day and a half, 2 days of Christianity. Things our founding documents are labeled as not the founding documents, but the spirit of the founding documents. Things like that, right?
So you have like any God stuff that's out, including even our motto, "In God We Trust," that's out. More space has been made for Islam and other religions. Moses is being taken out of the standards. How do you even begin to understand American law without Moses?
Well, without Moses, you don't have 10 commandments. And without the 10 commandments, you don't have absolute truth. And we're in a culture today where the left wants us to be fluid in everything, fluid in sex with children, fluid in gender, which, by the way, it comes up in the new proposed standards. Now, these are proposals, but they are in what now is draft F which will be proposed tomorrow. I'll be in Austin, and I'm on the docket to speak. We'll see if I'll speak or not. But tomorrow is a big day. And because parents finally said, well, wait a minute, you can't remove Moses. You can't teach that in history the Texas Rangers was an instrument of oppression. You can't teach that having a border is a militarization zone. This is what's being proposed. You can't teach Chinese dynasties and Asian dynasties, but not teach Lincoln and Davy Crockett.
Oh my gosh.
And American exceptionalism. They want that out. Like, don't teach kids that we went to the moon and that we are an exceptional nation. Now, this is in draft form. So, look.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing, that this is so important in every state because you'll have your own standards. But in Texas, just like California, most states will adopt our standards. So if Texas adopts this, then most likely all of the history books, you'll have a choice between the California history books and the social studies books and the Texas if they're not combined. And so this is going to affect your children.
No, nationwide, Glenn, here's why. People don't know. Texas has the most students in school, of even more than California, 5.8 million students in school age 17 and under. So the curriculum standards and the publishers draft off of the TEKS education code. And now, look, there's a code of what they should teach. And this letter from the Freedom Caucus, actually, and you can read it, it's scathing. They actually said that some of these proposals are illegal against Texas code. And so you got the Freedom Caucus with Mays Middleton that wrote this letter this morning saying, we will pursue action. I mean, the last paragraph here is if you further indoctrinate, they're talking about indoctrinating children, having to teach George Floyd and an uprising against police brutality, having to teach 28 genders in a certain age bracket in class, spreading Texas history over every grade, sprinkling it and blending it in versus saying, no, we're dedicated in first and second grade to Texas history. Look, it's grade by grade, and it's in proposal form, but the clock is ticking, Glenn. Tomorrow is a very, very significant
Okay, so
day
what do
for
people
our
have to
nation.
do? What do you have to do?
Email the State School Board of Education, each one of them, and I tell people, be kind, but be firm. Be nice. Now, we do have a 9-6 Republican board, 9-6.
Yeah, but in Texas, that doesn't necessarily mean.
That should be a shoo-in. I go 9-6 Republican, not necessarily, Glenn, 9-6 conservative.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a difference.
Exactly right.
There's a difference.
Exactly right.
So email every single one of them today.
So, but nobody knows who their school board, the state school board is. How do you find that out?
We list it on our website, Jaco, Jaco Booyens, Booyens Ministries.org. There's a button that says Urgent TEKS. Click that button. It's got all the information, the emails, the phone numbers. And I ask people, look, there are some of our friends on the school board. There are people who really want to fight for children. But tomorrow, there may be. It's not on the agenda, Glenn. But the conservative side of the SBOE tomorrow can call for a roll call vote. They can. Chairman Ellis, we have the chairman. He's the deciding vote. He only votes if it's a tie, 7-7. They can strike this down tomorrow if they wanted to. They could have, which was what riled me up. August 1st, when they met, it passed through to the next phase. Now, this has been coming since April, Glenn. I ask this. Why are we here? Why are we one day before this momentous event in Austin tomorrow having to fight to convince that some of this stuff is absolutely obscene? With a 9-6 Republican, come on, guys. We've got to step up here and say, we strike this draft. We're going to go back to David Barton's draft. That is pro-America, pro-Texas, pro-God.
And we've been using it for 12 years. We've been using it for 12 years.
That's right. Let's update it. Sure, there's new legislation. It has to be updated. Let's update it. But we can't scrap that and come with this radical. Now, since we've brought a lot of heat into the kitchen, look, there's a lot of momentum. So thank you, Glenn, for voicing.
No. I heard about it. A friend came to me and said, this guy is great. You know who he is? And I'm like, yeah, he's a contributor of The Blaze. He's fantastic. And they're like, well, why aren't you talking about it? And I'm like, because I'm talking about all the other stuff that's burning down.
That's right.
But anyway, but when she started to explain it to me, I needed to get you on the phone because, I mean, that's an email that I'm going to make today. So it's Jaco, spelled Jaco, like Jaco. Jaco Booyens, that's Booyens, ministries.org. Jaco Booyens Ministries.org. I will tweet this out. Stu, will you tweet it out on both of our Twitter feeds? Jaco, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Glenn. Thank you, Stu. God bless you for all you do. We appreciate you.
You bet. I tell you what, this guy is an amazing guy. He is a servant of God, and very, very loyal. Just a great guy. Jaco Booyens, let's post this. Could you post his video on the front page of glennbeck.com? Can we get that done? Along with the link to what we were talking about. See if we can put that on the front page of glennbeck.com. Has to be done today. It has to be done today. This is going to affect everybody's school books.